Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our third Thursday of Kansas Parenting Facebook Live. My name is Jackie, and I am here with Bridget Barnes, who is our Boy Scout wellness and parenting expert. And today we're going to be talking all about teenagers, the trouble they can potentially bring to families, and ways to discipline. So, I know this is a topic that a lot of parents are eager to hear about, which is why Bridget is here to lend her expertise. So, Bridget, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I kind of hear you going in and out, so I'm going to put my headset on just see if that helps a little bit. Let's see if that helps
Okay,
us out.
perfect.
Okay. All right. I can hear you a little bit better. Thank
Okay,
you for
awesome.
waiting.
Great. So we know that disciplining teenagers is one of the problems that many parents face. They're often rebellious, they don't want to listen, and they aren't always receptive to the different methods of discipline that many parents use. So that is why we're here to help. As we go through our conversation with Bridget today, if you have any questions for her as we talk about disciplining teenagers, please feel free to leave a comment on this video with your question. And as always, make sure you give it a like and also like our page. Okay, Bridget, so let's begin. The first question is, how can I effectively discipline my teenager without driving a wedge in between the two of us?
So, to effectively discipline teenagers to avoid driving a wedge between the two of you, I would suggest the following things. Calm yourself down before talking to a teen who's pushing your buttons. It never bodes well for a parent to get into a conversation with a testy teen. And always take time to listen to your teenager when they're not upset. When they know that you really do listen to them, then they're more likely to listen to you, even when they're feeling frustrated. Give them that time to calm down and to respectfully tell you what's on their mind and what their concerns are, and try to listen to them without judgment. And then set some reasonable limits and rules. Sometimes, as our kids grow and through their teen years, we don't change the rules, and maybe the rules that you have are might not be reasonable. You can check on that. They very well may be, but check on that with your kiddo. And it really is based on their developmental ability and skill, not their age. If they are developmentally mature enough to have the rules change, and they are cooperative and have the skill set to deal with peer group issues, then great. I'm more willing to change the rules.
Yeah. So, what about the teenagers who are just now kind of getting into that teenage angst? So, eye rolling, the silent treatment, ignoring us, and playing on their phone. How can parents maybe stop this behavior or at least slow it down before it gets to be too much for
Well, when it comes to teenage behaviors like eye rolling and give you the silent treatment, I don't think you can ever totally get rid of that
right?
kind of behavior. The good news is that that teenage behavior is fairly normal, and most other parents are experiencing it too. So you're not alone. The bad news is that it probably won't stop unless the parent really invests in some uh, purposeful teaching as soon as that behavior occurs. So at the same time, I suggest to parents, uh, if I tell a child to do something, let's say wash the dishes or clean the room or whatever the case may be, and they roll their eyes, but they're going in the right direction, they're going to clean the room or wash the dishes, I do not stop them. Roll your eyes right on into the kitchen. And as soon as that task is over, then I will address, now I'm going to tell you to do something else, and I want you just to look at me, say okay without comment or any facial expression, and go and do what I asked you to do. And as soon as you can be able to do that, that's when I'll stop telling you to do things. So let me give you another try at that. So I just really kind of pick my battles so I don't lose the war, so to speak, when it comes to these little ongoing button pushing behaviors that teenagers will and do. I address it while it's small. And if they are cooperative, I let them continue to do the cooperative behavior and then address that problem behavior when it best fits my teaching moment.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about choosing your battles, which kind of leads us into the next question, which is what advice do you have to help me not lose my temper when disciplining? I know raising my voice never helps the situation, but sometimes I just feel so frustrated.
Okay, you kind of went in and out there, so I think I heard you ask for advice about not losing your temper
Yeah.
when trying to discipline your teen. Okay, so well, first thing you want to do is give yourself a break as parents. You have every right to feel frustrated when teens do frustrating behavior. So, it's okay. You're okay. You're human. What you should definitely do is calm down yourself first so you won't lose your temper. So, I want you to take care of yourself first.
Hmm.
Okay, when your teen is having some problems. Um, and so my best advice is to do nothing, to stop interacting with that teen and step away and take care of you. That doesn't mean you're letting them get away with this. You're going to address that behavior just when you're calm enough to do so. So take a beat, focus on taking care of yourself. Okay. And then once you are calm, you can let them know, okay, I'm going to give everybody a chance to calm themselves down, and then we're going to return to this issue, and then do return to the issue, and that their behavior is going to indicate whether privileges are taken away or suspended for a while until they can learn how to better address their temper tantrum or
Hmm.
their out of control behavior. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So, what advice do you have for back talking?
Well, I would say as soon as a kid starts to talk back, I try to address that behavior right away, and then give them a chance to redo their behavior. I would just say, "Let me stop you right there. Stop talking right now. Okay, now I'm going to ask you again to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that might be, and I just want you to say okay and go do that. When you do that, then you have more time to do the things you want to do. So make good decisions now. I'm going to ask you again to go start your homework. Here we go. Go start your homework. And we'll see what we get. So if you consistently teach, this is my limit. This is the limit is here. This is the rule. I'm going to address it, and I'm going to do it calmly. I'm not going to yell at you. I don't need to yell at you. Okay. And if you coincide, if you cooperate, then I let you get back to doing the things you want and need to do.
Hmm.
So when kids talk back, it's just that real consistent teaching, and kids will not change without some pressure to conform. Okay, you want you'll want to make sure you address that behavior and
Yes.
correct it immediately. Don't let them argue back with you for 15, 20 minutes. Okay, as soon as that happens, I try to catch that behavior while it's small is another important thing. So your immediacy, and then having a consequence along with a reason. You've earned this extra chore. You've lost this privilege for so many minutes because you talked back to me. So
Hmm.
I'm going to give you a chance. I know you can do it. I know you are mature enough to be able to just start your homework without talking back. So I'm going to give you another opportunity. I'm going to ask you to go do your homework. You just need to say okay and go do it.
Hmm.
And let's see if they can do that. And then, I think that really kind of speaks to kids. They're like, okay, she's not yelling or screaming or
Yeah.
threatening me. No,
They don't get a
hard to. It's
reason.
hard to fight. Right, exactly, Gabby. They're not getting that rise out of you, and it's really hard to fight with someone who refuses to fight with you. I don't need to
Mhm.
fight with you. It's a waste of my time and breath and effort. What I am going to do is tell you, like it is, this is the situation that you're in. Make good decisions for yourself, and your decisions are going to indicate what I'm going to do in regards to that. So here
Mhm.
we go.
Good. Yeah. Okay, so moving into consequences, I tell my teenager that they're grounded for a month, but they always find a way to get me to remind them. So how can I stick to my guns without being?
Okay, so you want to avoid giving consequences that you have a history of not following
Yeah.
through on. So if you're giving groundings and you don't follow through on them, continuing to do that, giving that same consequence, uh, it's kind of crazy making. It really will make you very frustrated, to say the least. So when parents just continue to keep doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome, it is a recipe for
Yeah.
ineffective parenting. So I would suggest, picking a privilege that your child really likes and you're willing to follow through on, okay?
Mhm.
Or a chore they really like the least and are motivated to avoid, and then following through on that consequence, and maybe even small chunks or something, versus taking away the whole thing. That's what grounding is about. It's like, you want to levy this large consequence. But if your child does deserve a grounding, and they've done something fairly severe, if they took my car and drove it away and ran into a fence, I'm not going to say wash the dishes. They probably
Yeah.
will earn a grounding, yes.
Yeah.
But during the grounding, they have to do behaviors that show that they're responsible, respectful, they ask permission, they report their whereabouts. They're working on all the things and all the bad decisions they made during that got them to that situation versus just time. If time changed behaviors, prisons would work really well, but it does not unless you're doing some teaching, some intervention to help the child. So if you do have to give a grounding and you feel that it's appropriate, right? Then make sure that every day that child is working on those social skills that got them into that grounding situation. And then what you're going to find is that the kid is really working well, and then maybe you can shorten the grounding,
Hmm.
or they're struggling, and now you need to work on what you're teaching or not teaching. So during that grounding.
Yeah. That's great advice. So we talked a little bit earlier about, when your teenager starts to argue with you and how we need to try to stay calm and not let them rise out of us. So I know Boys Town Parenting has a great article on using the silent treatment as well. Can you talk a little bit more on how to use that when it comes to disciplining teenagers?
Well, when it comes to using the silent treatment, I keep in mind the statement, silence is golden. So when teenagers are being silent with me, I'm like not hating that. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, it gives me a moment to think, and they're being silent right now. If they're trying to use it as a punishment to me, then okay, I'm going to give them a time to reflect on their behavior. Because here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. They have to come back to me for the things they want. They really do.
Yeah.
I need gas in the car. And I want my favorite cereal and all these other kind of things. So really, we are going to have to communicate with each other. But give kids, when they are giving you the silent treatment, give them some time to calm down and to reflect on their behavior, so they can, make the best decision. Don't try to force them to talk to you. It never goes well when you're trying to force them to speak with you. If you give them enough time, they often come to you with their, concern or their issue. And then when they do, be willing to listen to them.
Hmm.
Okay, recognize that they might have some serious things going on, and that this is not a time to judge, just a time to listen. And then, if they're, when, I make some kind of brief calm down statement for them, if they're using it as a way because they're angry and they use silence as an anger mechanism, then, I just try to suggest to them other ways to calm themselves down too. You can get quiet and get to yourself, but you should also be able to voice to me, Mom, I need some time to calm down. And then I will back off and give you that silent time, right?
Hmm.
So it's important to kind of talk to kids, but not force them. Use that silent treatment for them to reflect and to calm themselves down and think about what's a better way to handle this. And if you've been teaching that, they're more likely to use those strategies that you've taught at a neutral time about other ways to handle their anger or frustration versus just giving you the silent treatment.
Yeah.
But enjoy it when you can.
rare, I guess, for some families. Okay, so moving into a more serious question, how can we handle teenagers who become aggressive or dangerous?
Yes, when addressing aggressive or dangerous behaviors, parents should always be aware of the rumbling behavior. And what I mean by that is sometimes you can tell when a kid begins to rumble. They'll roll their eyes, they'll snatch away, they'll stomp away. They do these little tiny behaviors that tell us, okay, here we go. We kind of all know how it kind of starts. And as soon as I see that little rumbling behavior with a kid who's very aggressive or can do dangerous things, then I address that behavior while it's small. I say, okay, let's try to redirect that. You want to take a deep breath. Remember your calm down strategy. You want to write in your journal. You want to, do some things that we've talked about to try to calm yourself down. So the child, sometimes you can redirect them that way, and then they can get calm, and you avoid the big danger situation. But when a teen is in a rage, parents should give them plenty of time and plenty of space to calm down so they can reflect and make good decisions. Which, if they make poor decisions when they're out of control, there are consequences for that. When they decide they're not going to come down and they're going to be destructive. I just don't deliver those consequences or try to threaten them with consequences when they're out of control. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. So we'll want to wait till they calm down. And then finally, when teens are out of the danger zone, so to speak, parents should teach their teen better ways to handle that stress. So spend some time. Don't just let them go back to life. Say, okay, hey, you spent 3 hours up in your room blasting your music, cursing at people, throwing things, being rude to your brothers and sisters. So now we need to work on those things. You're going to need to apologize. You're going to need to, show consideration for everybody in the household that you did things to, and have kids step back in their tracks. So it's not like a teenager can have a tantrum and throw a fit, and then, okay, now I'm hungry and everything's great. I don't think so. I
Right.
think you're going to have to, as a teenager, begin to take responsibility for your behavior and for the things that you said and done when you were upset and angry.
Yeah, definitely. So this next question says, my teen has been experiencing with drugs and alcohol, and I'm not sure how to handle it in teenagers. What should I do?
Okay, I think I heard you say that a, a teen is experimenting with drugs and alcohol,
Yes.
and the parent wants to know how to handle that.
Yeah.
Well, when a teen is experimenting or start, with drugs and alcohol, parents need to be willing to dig deep and don't avoid the obvious. And the obvious is they're going to have to increase their communication about what's going on with that kid and really know where their whereabouts are and who they're interacting with and what they're doing, and let kids take responsibility for their behavior. Lots of times I hear parents saying, well, it's their peer group they're hanging around, the kids they're hanging around. And I totally understand that, but uh, kids make their own decisions. Um, and so when their peers tell them to do something, they have a choice to make. Am I going to follow this group or am I not? And I hold my kids responsible for making that decision to follow something that they know is against their own family's values and teaching. So communicate with kids. Just start talking to them and let them know it's a safe place to talk to me about the use of drugs. I would tell my son, hey, if you go to a party and you get drunk, you make a bad decision, still call us. We're going to understand and we're going to come get you. And we can use a code word, call me and say, biscuits are burning. And I
Yeah.
will show up wherever you're at. So,
That's a great
um,
idea.
yeah, because they don't ever want to look like, they're copping out with their friends or whatever.
Yeah.
So, um, if they're already in the midst of using drugs and it doesn't look good, you can get a drug testing kit online pretty much. If a kid is
Yeah.
having an issue, they might need to take a drug test because they're not making good decisions about their body and their health. And then, a lot of times when kids start making decisions to use drugs or alcohol, They're trying to avoid making other decisions. So maybe having someone to talk to, some therapeutic support might be in line there. Group or Al-Anon, or even our Boys Town hotline has a nice your voice, your life, your voice that the
Mhm.
kids can talk to other kids. There's a great download that you can get on our site. 10 things every parent should know. I think it's a really cool pamphlet that could be helpful to parents dealing with dangerous or behaviors or drug use behaviors. But whatever you do, don't cut off communication with your kid. They need you at this time. This is not a time to be in separate places. And when they do talk to you, try your best not to have that judgmental face on, and to hear them out, so that you really might hear some real nuggets of, hey, this is going on and I didn't know. So there's a problem with a boyfriend, or a problem with some girlfriends, or something's happening to them. And those conversations will help lead you to maybe finding some answers.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'll make sure to link all of those resources in the comments too. Okay, so the next one says, my teen is bipolar disorder, is defiant, doesn't follow rules or directions, gets angry easily, and has numerous impatience. I've tried words he wants me to take good and bad. He sees a psychiatrist regularly, but only seems to get more. Any advice?
Well, working with children that are on the spectrum, and have disorders can always, and as a mom who had a child with ADHD and one with autism, um, it is a hard place to be as a parent, and you feel physically, emotionally, psychologically drained as a parent. So definitely try to get in a support group for you,
Yeah.
okay? Because this is not changing. Being bipolar, this is part of who your kid is, right? And so you need a safe place to go to talk about your frustrations, your anger, your heartbreak, right? So do something for yourself, because if you can't help yourself, you definitely can't help your kiddo.
Mhm.
Uh, Again, talk to your psychiatrist. It sounds like this mom is doing some really right, some good things. She's got a counselor, a psychiatrist on board. If sometimes the meds have side effects, kids can be acting out based on the side effects of medication. So talk to them about the meds and if they need to be upped or lowered or changed. And keep an eye and a journal on that. It's important that when you go into your meetings, that you have copious notes versus just general statements, so that you can say, on this date we saw this and this, and then we saw it again here and again here, and then doctors can make good decisions based on your notations. Definitely behavior modification along with medication is important. So if you're only doing meds and no behavior modification, then you're not really getting the best outcomes. I think it's really important. So going to one of our classes
Yeah.
might be helpful to set down some consistent rules and some consistent direction, and being able to communicate that without anger, and being able to create strategies to help your kid deal with numerous issues without their anger being unleashed on you, and how to kind of pick your battles without losing the war and check yourself before you wreck yourself, so to
Yeah.
speak, as a parent. So I'd invite you to a class and keep doing the things that you are doing with your counselor and your psychiatrist, and get into a support group for parents of bipolar kids.
Mhm. Great. Yes. For everyone watching, I will make sure to link a plethora of resources from this parenting in the comment section. And you can also go to voice.org and in the search bar of discipline, and you can find people, and you'll also see on the class just so they are super virtual, and so worry with more tips on Thursday. So, Bridget, as always, thank you for your insights and information. I appreciate
You're welcome. See you next time.
it. All right. Bye, everybody.